Hello, my fellow comic book collectors. It's Alan, the Comic Collector Geek, and this is the Wednesday video where I answer your questions. Each Wednesday, I basically answer people's questions. Last week was my birthday, and I basically got a ton of comments, about 79 comments on my video. It was a lot. Within it was a bunch of questions. I have 2 pages of questions to go through. One of the questions actually opened my eyes to something that I didn't even think about, where CGC could be destroying your comics. And I'm going to get into it. That's a later question, but definitely stay tuned for that because I was shocked. I was shocked. We'll get into it. First question comes from AJ Guez. You showed us that you did a presentation on Seduction of the Innocent at a local comic convention. Have you ever done a video where you show all of your Seduction of the Innocent collection? No, no, I really haven't. So I do have a pretty big collection. One of the things that I promised was that once I finish the Seduction of the Innocent collection, I will show the entire run of Seduction of the Innocent comics, and I will do an explanation of each. So it'll be maybe even multiple parts because there's 155 books that were mentioned in the Seduction of the Innocent, and it's a pretty massive amount. I'm only missing 5 right now, or no, 3 or 5, somewhere around that. I think it's actually 3 I'm missing, sorry. I'm going to show you a few. I figured, hey, I'll show you a few, sort of appease you in a way, because there are some pretty good ones. It's just too much to show in one video, especially a Q&A where I have a million other things to show. But I will show you a ton. Like, don't worry. Right now I'm going to show you a bunch. I'm not going to say what they are. I'm just going to go through them a little bit. So we got the story of Harry S. Truman. That was mentioned in the Seduction of the Innocent. We got the Almanac of Crime. We got Beware. I like this one. Great Good Girl monster cover. And then we got Black Cat Mystery. I like this one because, you get this guy and he's protecting the kid, actually, which is kind of fun. Okay, and then we got Spook with some LB Cole art. We got Strange Mysteries. Zoot. Dagar, number 19. Dr. and Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Now this is actually the first comic devoted to a horror concept. It predates Eerie number 1, but it's not considered the first horror title because it's classic comics. But it's the first comic devoted to a horror story. And then we got Witch's Tales. This is a different variation of the Harry S. Truman one. There's like 2 different variants of it. Then we got Crime Does Not Pay. Number 105. Then we have Terrifying Tales, number 15. Another LB Cole cover. And then we have another LB Cole one, Terrors of the Jungle, number 17. And then we have Brenda Starr. It's a great one. Number, I forgot what, I think it's number 4. I want to say number 4 or 5. What is it? Number 4, that's right. Okay. 4. Still more to go. I'm going to show you some more. I figured, hey, I'll show you a bunch. I love the Seduction of Innocent books. They're pretty awesome. Really got me into a whole bunch of different titles. Chamber of Chills, number 7. Thing, number 10 or 9. Number 9. Trapped. Another Black Cat Mystery. Black Cat Mystery number 39, The Hanging of a Witch. Beware, a nice zombie cover or skeleton cover. Beware number 6. I think that's a Bernard Bailey cover too. And then we got Web of Evil. Like this one, it's a good skull cover. This is number 1. And then we have Eerie Adventures, the Ziff Davis cover. Ziff Davis, really underrated series, company. Look for Ziff Davis covers. There's just some amazing ones, all painted covers. So that's Eerie Adventures number 1. And then we got Haunt of Fear, number 17. This is one you can find for cheap, actually. Crime and Punishment, number 2. It's the one where he's stealing from the blind guy. It's a really good one. And True Crime Cases. This one has Injury Tie in it. And got, oops, oopsie. That sounded bad. It wasn't as bad as it sounded, but it was bad. We got Red Seal. I stacked them too high when I was putting them over here. Okay, and we got All True Crime, another LB Cole cover. And we got True Crime Comics. And then we got a major one. This is Crime Suspense Stories number 20. Inside Crime. This is the Wally Wood cover. Another Zoot. This, I think this is either Jack Kamen, or it might be a Jack Kamen cover. I believe it's Jack Kamen. It looks like Jack Kamen with the curved blade. And Zoot. And then we have another LB Cole, Killers number 1. And I'm going to just quickly sort something out here. Bear with me. Bear with me. They just all fell on the floor, which is annoying. So yeah, let's just organize those a bit. Okay, so yeah, so those are some of the collection. As I said, there's 155 in the entire collection. I have most of them, so it would just be a very long video if I just showed all the Seduction and Innocent or SOTI books. Just be a pretty long film. So yeah, so stay tuned though. I will do it once I complete the collection. As I said, I'm only missing a few. Once I complete it, I will show them. Okay, Manuel Magnus wrote, what are your favorite film, TV, and video game adaptations of comics? My favorite film would be The Watchmen. That was a adaptation of the comic The Watchmen, because it was fairly faithful to the comic. There are parts within it that are a little bit different, but for the most part, it's almost frame for frame like the comic, and I think it's a pretty good adaptation. So I really enjoyed it. TV show. I was a big fan of the Justice League when I was a kid. I was also a fan of Scooby-Doo, and I was a fan of the Hulk, the live action series. Those were kind of big ones when I was a kid. I'm just trying to think of some others, but those are some of the big ones that I would say. Video game adaptations. I was trying to think of some. Like usually it's the other way around, whereas the comic came out after the video game. But I can think of one where it's the other way around, where it's the video game was where the comic was adapted into a video game. Now I can think of ones like all the Marvel ones and stuff like that. I don't really play those ones, but so those don't count for me. And same goes with DC ones. I didn't really play those. I didn't really get into them. But one game I did play a lot when I was younger. I don't play video games that much now, so pardon me for that. But the only game I played recently was maybe World of Warcraft. So that was like many years ago too. But the game that I did play that I really liked actually was Spy vs. Spy. It was very hokey. It was for the Commodore 64. So that's going back like 40 years ago. but it was a game that I thought was pretty cool. You could get the little different tools for each of the spies, and it was, you'd set up these really complicated things to trap the other spies, and it was interesting. I don't know, I liked it. So yeah, so that was the only one I can think of. As I said, I didn't really play any of the more recent stuff with like Marvel or like Marvel Rivals. I know that's really popular. I never really played any of those games. So yeah, I'm a bit out of touch when it comes to comic book video games. So sorry about that. Kim Yunin wrote, it was mentioned that good girl covers don't necessarily mean good. The girl on the cover is good, but the fact that she is well drawn, such as the character Skinny on the cover of Spirit 22, should it really be called a good girl if the girl on the cover is clearly a bad girl or villain in the story? Well, actually, the interesting thing about Spirit 22, here it is here, is that it's it's a great cover. So yes, the term good girl in the Golden Age refers to girls that are drawn well, okay, and they have that kind of well drawn, bit sexy, bit sultry, kind of look to them. Now this one is actually also known as a femme fatale cover. So you got good girl plus femme fatale. It's both. And this one, is kind of a classic femme fatale cover. It's probably the #1 femme fatale cover. Now later on, the word, the term good girl was kind of lost to the ages. And it was only the Golden Age collectors that really used it. In the 90s, we had the era of bad girls, which kind of fit more into what you're describing, where they're characters who are a bit more gritty, a little bit more violent, I guess. And we get characters like Vampirella, Lady Rawhide, She, Dawn. I don't know. There's like a whole bunch of these bad girls of the 90s that were really, really popular. And I really got into the bad girls. I really liked the bad girls. Lady Death is another one I can think of. Those were the bad girls of the 90s. So definitely cool characters. But Spirit 22 is one of those ones where it's considered a femme fatale cover. But the term really good girl means just well drawn. So usually a sexy girl on the cover, basically. Next question comes from Troy Evans. Have you ever had any problems with storing your slabs vertically long term? I've heard that with Golden Age comics, it can put a lot of pressure on the staples and inner well can damage the corners. I'm considering cracking all my slabs and bagging and boarding them with full backs, mylights, and micro chamber paper to better protect them while keeping the graded label. What do you think? I wouldn't recommend breaking them out of the slabs. There's a lot more to the slabs than just those elements. The slab actually does protect the comic in some ways from other things. They usually use like a neon gas inside the comic capsule, like the case, that also reduces the impact of air. Now, if you put it in a mylight, maybe you might reduce that a bit, but the cases are generally a little bit more sealed. The other thing with the cases, they do provide that extra layer of protection just by the sturdiness of the case. Now, the question really is, like displaying the comics like this, where they're vertical, does that damage the comic? And the answer is yes, which is surprising. So I actually had to look this one up because I didn't know this myself. I thought, oh, it shouldn't be any problem. It should be pretty safe to put them like this. But you're right. Gravity does play a part on hurting the book. So like what'll happen is the weight of the book itself will put wear on the staples. And over time, it can cause the staples to pop. Now, I'm not sure what kind of duration of time is required for that to happen. But maybe with the older books, it could be an issue. So it's best and I do this anyways, is change out the books so you're not displaying the same ones and they're not always in that vertical state. It's best to just restore your slabs horizontally. If you look at the way I store my slabs, which are behind these books, I actually just stack them, which is probably the best way to store them. So ultimately, that is the way to kind of get around this. I wouldn't recommend cracking them out. It's just a big cost as well. Don't crack them out of the slabs. Better just to store them horizontally and you'll be fine. Gravity is the big enemy here, but it's not, as a physicist, I know that it's a weak force. It's not, there's much bigger things that are at play that can hurt your comics more, like light, and like the slabs do not protect against light. So generally what I recommend is getting a plastic that goes over your slab that actually filters out the light. My lights actually do filter the light, UV protection. So that is more of an issue than gravity. Gravity is a small, small thing, but it can impact. So are the slabs destroying your comics? Not necessarily, but if you don't store them correctly, yes, they can. A lot of people don't realize that they don't protect against light, and that is the bigger issue. And I really have to stress that, that it's best to always store your comics in a low light environment. Like my room is, all the light is blocked. I try to, the only lights that I use are, you know, the lights that I'm turning on now, which are not going to have any UV. So that's what really hurts the comics. So generally, yeah, don't have to worry. You should be okay, but change them out. Make them stored horizontally more often would be my recommendation. Okay, and that actually doesn't apply to the slabs as well. You can even have them on stands and have the same issue. So watch out for that. Gravity is not your friend. Next question is from Adrift. Is there any Golden Age book that is heavily desired in collecting community whose desirability you just don't get, or that you straight up just don't like? I was thinking about this one. I'm sort of enamored with the Golden Age, so I don't know. I'm sort of weird in that respect, that I actually do like the Golden Age books, and the ones that are like highly desired I actually do enjoy. Now, I was kind of in the state where I would have to say, like, certain books I just didn't feel like paying the amount that they were asking for them. Like, I just don't feel like they're worth as much. A good example of that was Famous Funnies, the Fazetta run. I really like it. Don't get me wrong, I really like it, but do I want to pay what they're charging for those books? Now, I have recently picked up a few of them on the cheap, so I feel like I, you know, kind of like hedging on it this way, because I'm saying that I do like the books, but I just don't like them at the price that they're going for. So generally though, if you like a book, other people are liking it, so it kind of justifies the price, but I just don't want to pay those prices. So that's more of the issue than saying, oh, I just really don't like this book, or I don't get this book. Yeah, I'm kind of enamored with the Golden Age, where I really do like so many books from the Golden Age. And I was really trying to think of some books that I don't like that go for big money, and I really couldn't. You know, I just, for the most part, I really like them all, which is kind of annoying, because it's very expensive. But do I like them at the prices that they are? Not necessarily. So that's maybe the better answer. So yeah. So I try to find them in cheaper ways. So Jerry Wilson wrote, do you have any Leave It to Binky comics? Yeah, I brought my collection of Leave It to Binky, and I'm going to show you. It's not a big collection, so, but it is a fun one. So we have Leave It to Binky. This is Leave It to Binky. Kind of cute. These Leave It to Binkies had a lot of good girl art, so that's why I like them. So you get this kind of cute girl on the cover, a lot of them. And this is one I really like because it's a judo cover. She's doing drop Seanagi. I think that's really fun. These are all from DC Publications. This is number 9. Sort of a cool one. I like the dream covers. Then we got, what number is this? Number 33. I'm not really sure how long the series ran, but it was a fairly long running series. And we have number 37, where she's using him as a mirror. Kind of fun. And this one actually was mentioned in Pop, which is the Parade of Pleasure. And this is Leave It to Binky number 20. I think this is the one that was in Pop. I'm pretty sure. So yeah, so just a cute little good girl art cover. So yeah, so those are some of the some of the ones from my Leave It to Binky collection. Really, it's a very fun collection. Leave It to Binky. I'm always trying to find them. They're usually fairly affordable. You on some of those you saw that I paid like $10 Canadian, which is about $7 US. So fairly affordable comics actually. In higher grade they might go for more, but for the most part they're fairly affordable. Very nice little series if you like Good Girl. Okay. Next question comes from Rash Hunez. On one of your live streams, you didn't finish the story of how you got the illustrated history of Heidi Saha. Can you tell us how you finally got it? So here's the comic or magazine actually that I'm referring to, and this is an illustrated history of Heidi Saha. Very rare book. These were basically published through Warren Publishing, but you could only order them through like the mail order method. You couldn't buy these on the newsstand or something like that. And they were probably, I've heard anywhere from 200 to 500 were printed, probably less. It's probably in this lower number end of that range. Just a really rare comic. This one, I actually had gone to New York and searched for it because it was really hard to find. And I even found somebody that had a copy after going to about, I think I went to about 20 shops that all had Warren magazines at the time, but none of them had this. And I asked them, do you know anyone that could possibly have it? And they introduced me to somebody that did. He had original Fazetta Vampirella painting. he had some really amazing art. He was willing to sell that, but he was not willing to sell this. I was like shocked. I was like, oh, okay, well, finally I found somebody that could potentially get me a copy of it. And even at the time, it wasn't that expensive. Like we're talking anywhere from 500 to 1,000. Considering the rarity and how much people desired it, it was a very desirable book. It was in that range. It was like $500 to $1,000. Just very desired book. Now, that was back in the 90s. I could not find it though. The guy wouldn't sell it to me. I searched, and what I would do is daily I would search on eBay. And what happened was there was somebody, like I would search a couple things. I would search Heidi Saha, obviously, because of the name. But I would also search Warren lots, where every so often people would have lots of comics where it was like maybe 4 or 5 issues from Warren Publishing. And I would basically search those to see if they might have like a Heidi Saha slipped in there somehow. And that's how I eventually found it. I found it in the early 2000s, where somebody had a lot. It was $50 for the lot. And it had this in it mixed with a few other books. I think it also had a Vampirella #1. So I got this, a Vampirella #1, and a few other little books. But I ended up, so the Vampirella #1 I actually traded for about $100 worth of credit, because I traded with another guy that had some other Warren books that I was trying to get. So I traded the Vampirella because I had an extra copy of it. It was a lower grade. And then got this. I got this in my collection. So it was really uneventful. It was kind of like, it was just sheer effort, searching and searching and searching for it, where I eventually found it. So that's how I basically got my Heidi Saha. It was just like daily searches, and somebody didn't understand what it was. I mean, they probably based the lot that they were selling on by the Vampirella #1, not the Heidi. So it was kind of a nice thing. I was super excited. It was still early on in the eBay years where you had to send like a mail order, like you know, and then you had to hope that they would actually send your stuff back. So I was like really scared that I would never see the comic or my money back. So you know, it was always one of those things that was a little bit nerve-wracking when you're in the early days of eBay, where you'd send the money order, hope that they would send you the comics back. So I got them. So that was pretty exciting. So I was pretty happy about that. That was like one of the last books that I needed to complete my collection at that time. So yeah, that was how I got the Heidi Saha. Next question comes from Jay Olgavi, and he asked, can you show the Gerber guide for scarce comics, please? Okay, well, the Gerber guides are not necessarily for scarce comics. That's kind of a misconception. The Gerber guides are actually just a complete photo history of all the Golden Age comics. And they basically were in 2 volumes, A to J, and this is A to J. They're heavy. A to J, and then the other would be K to Z. So this is the first one, which is A to J, and you can see all the covers. Let me just kind of point to them. You can see all the covers. You can even see Uncle Scrooge. I actually have most of these ones. I have that one, have that one. I don't have the Action 1 up there. I have the Phantom Lady. And a lot of these ones that were on the cover of the photo journal go for the big money. So these are the most desired ones, actually. And you got some on the back here. You got the Punch. That was a like before this came out, that wasn't that big of a book. It was big, but not quite as big. You got the Crime one down there. This is another one. This is I actually bid on this one a couple times. This Future one. He's got like this chicken head. It's really cool. You got Terror's Startling Terror #11. Get some really major covers on this photojournal. You got World War III up there. So you got some. I don't know if you can see these that well, but so that's the first one, and it basically has all the photos for the Golden Age from A to J in this one. And there are places where they didn't have photos because either the comic was so rare that they just had a blank. Now I have like 2 or 3 comics that are in my collection now that were blank inside of this photo journal where they just couldn't find a photo. Well, I happen to have. A lot of the ones that were mentioned in the photo journal were from the Mile High collection because that was a very complete collection for the Golden Age. I'll show you that. That's that one. And this other one, I have a mint copy of it, or near mint. It's still in the original plastic, so I can't open it up. But you can see some of them. I just actually showed this in my grand finale, this one yesterday. And you can see, like, you know, got Fantastic Four. So some of these are Silver Age. And yeah, some pretty major books in here. You can see Batman 1 down there. And I'll show you the back. So these are all very, very desired comics because of the fact that they're on the cover of the photojournal. Trying to show them all. This is Punch 20. That's a good one. I really like that. It's a nude cover. Got Mask. Some really cool ones. Clairvoyant, I have that. So yeah, and then All-Star, I have that one as well. And then Spider-Man. So some of these are not Golden Age, but they're just major books. So yeah, so yeah, that's the photo journals. I don't really want to open them up, well, especially that one because it is mint. So I'm sorry I can't show it, but I figured I'd at least show you the covers because there's a bunch of covers on the cover of the photo journal. But that's basically what they were. What they did was Gerber basically went around to big collections. He would photograph all the books in the collection, and he basically compiled them into a photo journal. And created what he thought was the most complete record of all the books from the Golden Age. They kind of knew how many were in each run. So, Action Comics ran from 1 to X number. Well, they would know, they knew that they had to get all the photos for all those different issues. So that's kind of the way that they proceeded in terms of trying to find all of the Golden Age covers. And they went to the big collectors that just happened to have most of those covers. So pretty cool story and history. I guess it was pretty hard on him and his wife's life. So yeah, so it was very interesting story that they went through a lot to try to do this. And it really did change comics because once the photojournal came out, if you look at the very early price guides, you'll see like in the Overstreet, it'll say 1 X price, 2 to 5 certain price, 6 to something a certain price. And after the photojournal, that changed very quickly because people realized that some of those covers that were just random ones, like Black Cat Mystery 50 is a pretty cool cover. It wasn't just lumped in with a whole bunch of other books that weren't as cool. It was now all of a sudden more desired, and the price reflected that. So really major impact on comic book collecting. Next question comes from Matt Lakes Comics. I see a change. You change the books you put up on occasion. How do you decide which books to use? So if you look at the books behind me, I'll move over a little bit. They're all books that I really like. So I generally put my favorite books up there, and I'll cycle them out where I get some new book and I'm like really excited about it, and I'll put it up. Sometimes I'll get a little bit bored with the themes, and I'll try to reorganize the themes behind me. Like they're kind of getting mixed up right now, but I'm going to resort this out. Like it used to be that this was like yellow covers, and this was like horror covers. Now it's got like a Batman in it. It's like all mixed up. It's just because I'm showing certain books and then pulling them off, and then I replace it, but I don't necessarily do a good job. So I'm going to switch them out. I might just do all Good Girl, like across. I'm debating. It's like one of those things. I like to switch it out every so often. And also maybe because the vertically standing might hurt them. So now that's more incentive for me to switch them out more often. Yeah, it is definitely based on just liking the books. These are some of my favorite covers. So I like seeing them. This is mainly how it works. And then I switch them out because I like to see other ones. So I'd love to, if I could display all my comics and not worry about gravity as well. I'll find an anti-gravity room and display them all and, with no light and perfect air and all that kind of stuff. But I'd love to just have them all displayed. I love seeing them. But that's impossible. So sadly so. Yeah. So hopefully that answers your question. Next question comes from Friendly Neighborhood Linguist. At a risk of opening a can of worms regarding what counts as a first appearance, how about Red Sonja on the cover of Conan the Barbarian number 24? Okay, so last week I answered a question where somebody asked me what are the cool, the sexiest female first appearances where they're on the cover of their first appearance. So Red Sonja, this is considered, not actually, considered to be the first appearance of Red Sonja. So this is semi-sexy cover. I actually prefer her metal bra better, but this is sort of her first appearance. Now, I didn't count this on purpose because I didn't consider this to be her first appearance. This is actually her second appearance. This is her first cover appearance. I'll give her that, but not her first appearance. Her first appearance is in Conan the Barbarian number 23. She's in multiple panels in this, so this is Red Sonja's first real appearance. It's one of those ones where a lot of the time collectors want something to be true, but it's not necessarily true. So collectors want 24 to be her first appearance, but really it isn't. It's sort of like Gambit's first appearance, or Superman's first appearance, or not Superman, Lex Luthor's first appearance. There's a bunch of characters that we kind of attribute a certain book to their first appearance, but really there's other books that came out earlier that are actually their true first appearance. And what happens is sometimes the market gets established for a certain book, and people don't really want to reestablish the value to another book because they've just invested too much money. There's just too much money from the market in number 24 that people kind of prefer that book. She's on the cover. It's her first appearance. It's sort of like similar to Wolverine. Wolverine's first appearance is in Hulk 180, not 181. It's in Hulk 180, but he's on the cover of 181, and he's more in the story in 81. But really, his first appearance is in 180, and you get into this kind of thing where the market has sort of established that 180 is his first appearance, and therefore that's the market. It's not always accurate in terms of what is truly their first appearance. Another good example of that is Venom. Venom actually appeared in Amazing Spider-Man 299, but 300 is the one that everybody desires. It is what it is. So again, it's more about the market than it is about the actual first appearance sometimes. I like to get both generally. That's how I collect. So yeah, and I usually go for the true first appearance first. That's my way. Okay, next question comes from, I like what I buy. Do you display your books in other rooms in the house, or are you restricted to this room only? Well, actually I do. I mainly display books in this room, mainly. This room is really my sanctum sanctorum, and this is where I can get away with doing whatever I want. I can do whatever I want in this room. My family doesn't complain too much. I also display some comics in my office. So kind of those are the two rooms that I can control, and I display it in those two areas. But the rest of the house is comic free. Those are comic free zones. So yeah, so those, but yeah, I'd like to display comics in more areas, but yeah, my family wouldn't necessarily go for that. Okay, next question comes from Kevin Taylor. Can you please give people an update on the progress of your Kickstarter? Okay, so this Kickstarter has been very painful to me. So here's the update that I can give. At the end of January, most I would say most of the orders have gone out at the end of January. However, there were a few. There was an issue with some of the printing, where some of the books had to get reprinted. They arrived damaged. They had to get reprinted, and I'm not sure which cover it was, but there was certain one that if you ordered it, your order is being delayed because we're reprinting it in order to, give you the best copy. Those books that arrived damaged were returned and destroyed, just so you know. So the edition size is the edition size. If it says 20, well, then it's 20, because the extra copies get destroyed. But because of that, I'm hearing that things are delayed further, which is frustrating to me, because I'm going to be the last to get the comics at the end of the day. Everyone else will get their comics first. I'll get them last. So I'm waiting and just as anxious as everybody else. I'm hearing now, based on this delayed printing, the end of February. I'm not sure when that means that we'll get the comics, maybe March, which is painful. So it's a very slow process. I appreciate everyone's patience. I really do. It's hard. I have to keep on like asking my partner, that is the one that's handling all this stuff, and he keeps on delaying things. So it's not necessarily his fault either. It's the printer, but it is what it is. It's a slow process. Hopefully the next Kickstarter will be a much smoother process, and I'll give more accurate timelines. But it is our first time working with this printer, so that's another issue. And we are a small order within that publisher. I think it's less than 500 comics that I'm getting printed. So we're getting treated as a small as a small client for them, and we're also being treated as a new client where we don't have that established rapport with them. So we're building that. So hopefully the next issue will be a much smoother process, but that's all I know for now. I'm sorry for the people that are waiting. I'm doing my best to speed up the process, but there's not much I can do. So sorry. Sorry, what can I say? Dead Man, the very last question, Dead Man wrote, you showed the first appearance of the American Dennis the Menace, but the British Dennis the Menace came out 2 years earlier. I can't find out any information if there were any legal battles. Do you know if there were? Also, Dennis the Menace is still going in the UK. Are there any comics or newspaper strips still of the US one? So this is one of those situations where it's coincidence that both the American and British creators came up with the same idea. They both came up with a character named Dennis, and what rhymes with Dennis? Menace. So Dennis the Menace was kind of a cute name that they both came up with, and they're very, very different characters. If you look at the US Dennis the Menace, he's a blonde-haired, kind of not a bad guy. He's not a bad boy. He's just one of those ones that is destructive in a innocent way. He's like, he will, trip over a garden hose, and the garden hose will all of a sudden cause a leak, and the leak will flood the house, and then, a whole bunch of chaos will happen. So that's kind of more the American style, where it's like this more cute, innocent character that's just a havoc, like a disaster waiting to happen, more accidentally than deliberately. Whereas the British version is a dark-haired boy, kind of not like the American boy is a little bit more roundy. The British one's skinny and kind of bow-legged, and with like messed up black hair, and looks a little bit more rough as a character, and he's more demonic. I would say he's the evil Dennis the Menace. He actually is deliberately causing the menace part of his name, where he goes out and he like gets his slingshot and shoots things and does bad things. He's the menace. So very different take on the character, and just very different. It just happens that they have the same name. It's a coincidence more than like a plagiarism. And both of them, the American and the British creators, understand that. So there have been no lawsuits as a result. And they both kind of let each other be and do their own thing. Dennis the Menace, I believe, is still in the newspapers. I haven't read a newspaper for a long, long time, so I don't know. Because, who reads newspapers nowadays? it is what it is. But just a little bit of facts about some of the Dennis the Menace things. The British Dennis the Menace came out in 1951. The American one came out in 1953. If you ever want to get the first appearance of Dennis the Menace UK version, he makes his first appearance in Beano number 452. And the creator of Dennis the Menace UK version is David Law. So that's all there is to it. I hope you enjoyed these answers to the questions. If you have any questions you want to ask, just put it in the comments below and I'll do my best to answer them. Thanks again for watching. Bye for now.